What's up guys, hope everyone is doing well. In this video I'm going to be going over some updates for XYO, but before I get into the chart for XYO, going over the daily and the weekly, I want to go over the Bitcoin dominance and the others dominance first, really just to set a general precedent, not only for XYO as an altcoin, but just in general for altcoins, alt season, obviously, because there's been plenty of people over the last month or two, maybe a little bit longer, talking about alt season being dead, alt season's not happening, which is, I've said many times, it's been said for years at this point, from cycle to cycle. It was said towards the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, when Bitcoin was getting closer and closer to that 50, 55, 60, $64,000 area. Some of the alts just weren't really popping off yet, but then a lot of the alts obviously ran towards that move during summer 2021, leading into the end of 2021, November, when Bitcoin hit 69,000, and that move from around 30 to 69,000 was when a lot of altcoins, XYO being one of them, made pretty significant gains. But here again, mainly looking here at each of these pink vertical lines, this being January 2017, fast forward 4 years, January 2021, another 4 years, we see here January 2025, where each of these times you can see very clearly the Bitcoin dominance is just having a free fall here to the downside. And I think that's what's more likely to happen this time around. If we look down here at the RSI, you'll see these ascending trends here where it was continuously finding support until there was this back in 2019 here, a brief move below, then back above, and then it finally went below for the final time. Seeing something I think rather similar here, where it went below, went above recently, now it's back below. There's also, if you look here, there's ascending resistance here going from June 2023 to recently, with the move up back up to around, looking up to 64% early February. Each of these consecutive, setting each of these higher highs here, moving along that resistance, whereas you can see here there was this longer term bearish divergence from June to beginning of November 2024, and then more recently with the local high from late October 2024 to most recently February 2025, there was a shorter term bearish divergence here. So plenty of things to point to the fact that we'll see the Bitcoin dominance finally have this free fall, this jump off of the cliff here at the downside. Again, obviously there's also this zone here. It goes all the way back to 2016, roughly mid 2016. Again, to find this rejection here. As I've said many times, this horizontal line here, this purple sitting at the 50%, is going to be very important. Once we start to see the dominance here fall down, that's obviously going to be good. Plenty of the altcoins will probably already be moving during this period leading up to the 50% zone. But by the time we see the dominance for Bitcoin go below the 50 and then continue lower, that will really mark that threshold where we're seeing the dominance flip from being in Bitcoin's corner to being within the altcoin or altcoin space corner, i.e. alt season. So that's going to be very important to look out for. If you look here at the others dominance, as I've pointed out recently, there's this uptrend here going all the way back to most notably end of 2015, where we can see with each of these green boxes here, this is Q1 2017 here, Q1 of 2021, and currently Q1 of 2025. Again, every single 4 years, you can see, again, very similar to what's going on with Bitcoin dominance, also with Bitcoin in general, with 4 year halvings, the 4 year cycle concept that people typically will point to. But you can see with the others dominance, each of these Q1s, each of these 4 years has culminated with this move towards the upside, and I think that's what's more likely than not to happen this time around. Obviously, it's not guaranteed, nor do I know that is what is going to happen, but that's what I think, as I said, is more likely than, you know, seeing the dominance here just completely continue to dump, and like, for example, the Bitcoin dominance here continuing to go higher. Definitely possible, but it's just personally not what my bias is. It's not the outcome that I lean towards. If you look here, there's these consecutive lower lows here going from around mid-June 2024 to recently about 3 or 4, depending upon how you look at it. The RSI has been building up the entire time, so there's some bullish divergence shaping up there. Similar picture here on the stock RSI. Similar picture here on the MACD. On the RVI here, there's been an uptrend all the way from end of 2022 to now again. So there's, at this point, many bearish or bullish divergences here. If you look here at the ASO, there's also one shaping up here as well. So each of these indicators are all showing bullish divergence. Not that again is going to be a guarantee. That alone is not going to be what solidifies this movement towards the upside. But with all of these things factored in, the fact of this long-term uptrend here since 2016, again, would be very similar to the Bitcoin dominance. Each of these quarter ones here, as I pointed out, along with all these bullish divergences shaping up, it's likely, again, also thinking about how the Bitcoin dominance looks, is all, I think, shaping up to be a rather perfect storm. Now, there's also been the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, and obviously the other digital asset stockpiles been put more solidly into effect with the executive order that Donald Trump signed on March 6th. On March 7th, they had the first crypto summit at the White House. Was rather, anticlimactic. They didn't really, I think it was only somewhere, at least like the actual content of it that pertained to Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general was, I don't know, somewhere maybe like 30, 40 minutes or so at the most. It was, again, like like I said, very boring, nothing really interesting, in my opinion, that they talked about. Nothing, groundbreaking or bombshell. Plenty of people are saying that he was going to, Donald Trump, or in general, is going to be announced the 0% capital gains tax for made or based in America cryptocurrencies. That didn't happen. Hopefully that ends up happening. That'll be a very good thing, as I've mentioned many times. But there's plenty of fantastic things in the fundamental landscape, especially within America, even globally, with the adoption of Bitcoin and just crypto, blockchain solutions in general. If you look here at the Bitcoin fear and greed, it's sitting at 27. I think it went down to, I think it was like 10 or so at the lowest recently. Something which, before I get into XYO here, to go over Bitcoin first, the fact that the sentiment right now has reached lower states of fear and just panic, and just, really the sentiment's just absolutely shot through the floor. It's terrible. It's worse than the FTX collapse back here at the end of the Bitcoin bear market back in November 2022, when Bitcoin moved from around 22,000 all the way down to low 15,000s. Yet, despite Bitcoin being worth around 15, 16,000, Bitcoin back then, Bitcoin is now around, let's just say approximately 80,000. Yet, the fear and greed got lower. The sentiment is honestly worse. The engagement, social media wise, is just retail. If you think about it, it's just not really there. Hasn't particularly been there this entire bull market. This bull market's been a very interesting one. If there has ever been a time during the lifespan of Bitcoin to say that this time is actually different, or things just, at the very least, they feel as if they're different, it's definitely now. And a lot of people are seeming to be catching that drift within the overall social media sentiment, and the network of people that are interested in this space and have their opinions to share about it. But something that's really going to be important here for XYO is not only the Bitcoin dominance, the others' dominance, but Bitcoin needs to get out of the slump that it's been in since it hit around 108K here in December, mid-December 2024, then moved back up to basically the same level, a little bit higher, to around 109,000 around January 20th, around the inauguration of Donald Trump earlier this year. And ever since then, at this point, I believe it's down somewhere around like 28% in total, 28.4%. Standard correction in a bull market. Again, nothing really to be panicking about to such a degree that has been going on within the crypto space, the Bitcoin space, the fear and greed being as low as it did get recently. But the main thing I want to point out here is if you look down at the RSI, you can see this box, purple box here, ranging from 37 all the way down to 27. And each of these vertical lines here at the end of the bear market, November 2022, the end of the first intermediate consolidation or correction, March of 2023, the ending of the sideways correction consolidation here for around 6 or 7 months or so, hitting 25,000 here, then moving up to 75,000, then in the second 6, 7, 8 month long correction where this is here structurally synonymous. These are here where this intermediate consolidation here would be synonymous to this, and then this would be the third, what we've been going through recently, the third intermediate consolidation, whereas you see this first move here would be synonymous to this first move here, such as to this. Each time they're getting bigger percent in terms of the percentage gains. This would be the second move. This would be the second move, and I believe we are heading into the second move anywhere up to around 180 to around like 230, 250,000, maybe 300,000 at highest. I don't think it's going to go too much higher than 300,000. I think around 180K, 230, 250K is a little bit more likely as a range. But so with this range down here, you can see that recently with the RSI going down to 31, getting a, I'll call this a close, where we see this turquoise dot here, closed out of the Bollinger Bands, which a lot of the time signifies that the local low has been set, or it's quite close. Now this is the third lowest here at 31 that Bitcoin's gotten in terms of oversold. The most oversold it got was back at around 25,000 mid-August of 2023. Second most oversold would be at the end of the bear market back at 15,000, 16,000 in November 2022. So like I said, this is the third most oversold the Bitcoin's been since the end of the bear market in late 2022. It's reached this purple zone here from 37 to 27, where you can see with each of these vertical lines, every single time this has happened, we see these massive and these intense moves here towards the upside. Now we could, again, continue to stagger sideways for a bit of a time. There might be one more move a little bit lower, maybe down to like, what has it gone down to around 78,000, maybe somewhere around 70 to 75,000. Maybe even down to 60 to 70,000 if we go down, as I've said many times. 65,000 is around a 40% correction. Pushing 60K would be around like 43, 44%, which would be pushing the limits of healthy bull market corrections. Now if it starts to correct more, significantly more than that 43, 44%, 45%, heading towards like 50, 60, then likely the bull market is over. But to get into XYO here, as having all that as a preface, because all that is very important for what XYO is going to do, because the main thing that I pointed out for XYO in my recent videos and posts on X has mainly been the temporal trend, which is for XYO here, you can see here, this is going to be September right here, September, October 2023. Then there is a move up to December 2023. This intermediate correction here down to January, February 2024. Then the second leg up to March of 2024. So again, this is exactly here. So if we look here, Bitcoin, September, October 2023, a move up to December, a correction to January, February 2024, and then a move up to March of 2024. This temporal trend has characterized the entire cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Phantom, most of the altcoins. Some of the altcoins will deviate a little bit. Maybe they'll top out a little bit earlier, a little bit later, but it's all generally been the same. So once Bitcoin hit its 75K here in March 2024, XYO hit around $0.015. Then there was this correction down to a year later, September, October 2024 right here again. So it's a year later from here. Then we see from 2024, September, October, move up to around 4.5 cents during December. So again, this is going to be synonymous to December 2023, just a year later here. Then so far we've seen the correction down into generally and broadly Q1 of 2025. As I said last time around, a year ago, 2024, this intermediate consolidation culminated by just roughly mid-February. At this point, about a month afterward, mid-February, still generally quarter one, which is really, if going back to Bitcoin, where each of these intermediate consolidations ended here. Sometime in quarter one, moved up. Sometime in quarter one, 2024, moved up. Then again, quarter one, 2025. Will we see the same thing? I think it's more likely than not. So at this point, obviously, looking at the temporal trends, it's not following through perfectly, which shouldn't be expected. It shouldn't be expected to continue to just down to the day, down to the hour. So like, for example, February 6th, February 7th, to have seen a year later, XYO already moving back up above its main horizontal battle in terms of resistance at this point here is going to be just approximately 2 cents, around specifically around like 2.2, 2.1 cents. That's going to be very important for XYO to get above. As you can see here, it's just been resistance. Once it finally moved below it here, you had resistance, 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 resistance around 4 or 5 times. So far, it's just been going down. Since then, all the way down to the 800 EMA. Now, this is the daily. Something I've said over the last month or two or so was that I didn't particularly want to see XYO move down to the 800 EMA and for a significant period of time close candles and open candles below the 800 EMA. At this point, there hasn't been a close below, but more likely than not, this one still has about 12 hours left in it. This candle more likely than not will close below it. Now, again, like I said, this I didn't particularly want to see. Now, that doesn't mean that I think since we're seeing this now, it's all over and we're just going to see XYO complete. That's not what that's exactly what I'm not trying to say. What I was trying to say is that is best case scenario, I didn't want to see that. Now, if XYO sits here and trades sideways along it and like closes a number of candles below, opens below, I mean, that's completely fine as long as it can manage to hold support somewhere around here. I also said that we could see XYO come down to, depending upon how Bitcoin moves. I mean, the last video I uploaded, really the main sentiment that I was conveying was that if Bitcoin starts to dump, XYO is going to dump harder, which is what has happened. XYO percentage-wise isn't down that much, I think, since the most recent move, somewhere around like roughly mid-February. I believe XYO is down around 57%. Bitcoin is down somewhere around, well, at this point it is far more. So around 20% for Bitcoin. Let me redo this for XYO a little bit later, somewhere closer to like February 20th. So right here, it's still 40%. So yeah, I mean, still looking at about a little over 2x. XYO has dumped around double what Bitcoin has done. So I mean, that generally has held up. Bitcoin has continued to go lower. XYO's done worse than that by a degree of 2, a factor of 2, a little bit more. And definitely could, especially if Bitcoin has one more move towards the downside, we could see XYO come down and fulfill this vector zone here all the way down to its lowest around 0.0873, which is what I mentioned, is if Bitcoin doesn't get out of its slump, we'll see XYO more likely than not move down maybe to this, I mean, 0.08 on the dot goes down to around right here. So maybe somewhere on this zone is where we could expect XYO to find its support broadly, is obviously assuming Bitcoin doesn't start significantly going below around 60 to 65,000, indicating that the bull market is more likely than not over. Then we'll likely see XYO, just like I said, generally find some support somewhere around here. There is this vector zone down around 0.0734 to 0.06. I really don't want to see that be met. If it does perhaps get met, I mean, I'm not saying that, we could see XYO bounce from here, continue to go higher. I mean, if we do see Bitcoin drop down to around approximately 65,000, I think it's definitely possible that we would see some wicks maybe down to this level. But there's also this symmetrical triangle here that formed that led to the move up to 4.5 cents. This is generally going to be a pretty important area to find support as well. And then also the fact that the 800 EMA here and the 200 EMA here, this could be generally a zone forming right here that will act as a rough support area for XYO in general. Now, zooming out a bit, on the daily, again, looking all the way back to the bear market lows, so notably here, December 2022, January 2023, then to here around September, October 2023. If we look here at the RSI, I can see that it is currently, it's in the orange zone of the Fibonacci levels, so typically lining up with the highly oversold. So right now it's specifically sitting at 34, and it is just as oversold as, well, it's actually more oversold than the low set back here in early September. So right now here compared to here, RSI is more oversold, which is a good sign. It's also just as oversold as the price when it was at its absolute lows during the prior bear market. Again, that's a good sign to be seeing as well. We're seeing the price substantially higher. So for example, from the bull market or the bear market low up to where it is currently at around a penny on the dot, around 287% higher, yet the RSI has completely reset itself back to a broad range of around, let's just say 30 to 40 on the RSI. The stock RSI is completely bottomed out. Which, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean much. I mean, it could be a good thing. It could also, I mean, not particularly be a good thing. If you look back here, the stock RSI was bottomed out right here, but you can see the price here just continue to go down for a number of months. So it doesn't necessarily mean much, but it also, again, depending upon how the market wants to behave, it could be a good thing. The main thing I want to point out here is the MACD. As you can see, it's been ascending here while the entire time, where you can see the price has been descending. So at this point, there's a double bullish divergence, with the first bullish divergence here leading into late January. This is when XYO moved around 1.3 cents up to around 2.6 cents, around a 95% move. So if we see something similar and it moves up, let's just say somewhere around 95 would put it up right about 2 cents on the dot. 100% would put it around the 2.2 cents. So if we see something similar, so this first bullish divergence led to a 95% move, and then the second bullish divergence, let's say it leads to something similar. We finally get the move up to this 2.5 cents. Maybe it breaks above it, comes down, retests the 2-cent level, and then continues to go higher. Also assuming that Bitcoin finally continues to move upwards towards 100,000, 105, 108, 109,000, and continues to go higher. If you look here at the RVI, it's currently more oversold than the bear market lows. It's more oversold than right here, the local low set before going up to 4.5 cents. The only point in time that it's not more oversold than would be this low here back in December of 2022, which again, I mean, it wasn't as low as here, which, looking at the RVI right here, this would have been the actual bear market low for XYO, and obviously it's currently far more oversold. So, and even looking here at the ASO as well, this is the second most oversold it's been since the end of the bear market. So, I mean, really, XYO is looking very similar to Bitcoin here, where it's just insanely oversold. The fear and greed has gotten down to 10. The sentiment's just absolutely terrible. This, I mean, generally is really the best times to be buying, where you're seeing everything insanely oversold, highly reset, yet the prices are still so high. It looks as if this is just in a bubble of time towards the local lows, where we're going to start to see this reverse towards the upside. There might be one more move to the downside, maybe some sideways action. XYO at this point is down, rounding it up to 77%, as I've said many times. 60, 70, 80, even upwards to around 90% corrections is common for altcoins in bull markets, and they'll even make those 60 to 90% corrections again during a bull market, and then continue to make substantial gains after making those corrections. So I mean, that's not really anything to be worried about if you were to ask me. If you look here at this weekly chart, paying attention to the ascending zone here, you can see how important this has been. XYO began trading here, went below, came up, rejection here into the first macro W that ended the first bear market for XYO. Then we had the bull market here, and the first major move. We had this consolidation here, rejection 2 times, XYO came up, broke the ascending support resistance zone, came back down and tested it, then moved up into this double top here by the end of 2021, around November. We then see XYO come down, find support, a bounce up, a rejection at the top of the channel, a move down lower, and then up to be rejected at the bottom of the channel. Another move back down to the lows, bear market lows set here. The bull market then begins for XYO. We see the move up into December 2023, correction in January, February 2024. We're just seeing these rejections here, then back down in September, October 2024. Finally, XYO breaks it, moves up to 4.5 cents. Now it's coming back down and it is right at this zone. On top of that, it is currently right on top of the 50 EMA and the 50 EMA band. This is also exactly where XYO found support here in quarter one of 2024 when it moved up to the March local high at around $0.015, which again is going to be synonymous with the structure here where we saw this first move, correction, second move. This here will be the first move, correction, and then the second move up somewhere towards, I think, this green box. So anywhere from just roughly around the prior all-time high at around 8 cents to at highest somewhere maybe around 20, 21 cents, with I think a sweet spot somewhere around like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 cents or so. Which I've in past videos demonstrated that various ways with Fibonacci extensions. There's plenty of Fibonacci extensions I've drawn that also create this zone here with that specific price target approximately around 12 cents, give or take a couple cents or so. And if you look down here at the RSI, you can see that it is rivaling. Basically, it's just as oversold on the weekly now currently as it was back here in these lows, which is again, that's going to be a good sign to see. Other than that, there's nothing really too notable. If you look here at the RVI, it's basically horizontally, looking here at these, if you were to draw a rough range right here, the RVI is currently in the oversold horizontal range that's generally been correlated to like each of these lows going back to these most notable lows here, which again, nothing absolutely groundbreaking, could definitely continue to go lower, but interesting and important to note nonetheless, just to see the fact that XYO is as high as it is, but yet it's, you know, reset itself back down to lows that are crucial for finding moves towards the upside. The MACD is also again getting back down to reset zones here. If you look here at this rough horizontal range as well, again, really all of this kind of pointing to the same thing. Looking here at the daily, this weekly, and this weekly chart here, we'll also see the RVI is more oversold than really this entire period again. Right here, the local lows leading into September, October 2024, leading into the recent 4.5 cent local high. It's more oversold than the entire low range, really the main accumulation period here for XYO. Again, very important to note that. Again, the MACD on this one is even lower than the prior one, which I probably have different inputs for this one. Which actually, I think this is the Heikin-Ashi candles, and these are, so that's why the MACD looks different. This is using the traditional candlesticks. This is the Heikin-Ashi candlesticks. So using the Heikin-Ashi candlesticks, the MACD is even more significantly reset than literally any point during this entire these lows back here. But if we look here at the RSI, you can see that it's sitting roughly around the 382, which is where the prior quarter one correction low met in 2024. So again, just a year later, might see this support found roughly around at 382. Also, you can see the price is heading down to the 786 here of the uptrend channel. Now, again, I just want to point out this ascending macro Fibonacci channel, where again you see this massive W leading into this bull market, and then you see here this right here would be the second W, as I've pointed out many times. And you can see here that this 0.25, so this black line to this purple line here would be the 0.25 to the 382. And you can see that this W is characterized by moving below it. You see rejection, 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 then XYO finally moved above it, then moved to the upper bound version of the 382 to 25. We've seen the same thing here where we saw the brunt of the bull, prior bear market for XYO here come down, rejection. Then we set this double bottom mainly right here with these two lows, but we're seeing rejection along this 25 to 382 range. Now we're seeing this move back down to the 786. So if this bounces, obviously Bitcoin's bull market's not over, alt season is indeed going to happen, then we'll see a move, assuming XYO follows through roughly similar to how it did last time, a move up to the upper bound 382 to 25, so somewhere around right here, which would be the upper bound of this green zone. So anywhere, depending upon when it happens, somewhere around 16 cents all the way up to 25 cents. But as I said, generally to get the broad range, probably moving up anywhere to the prior all-time high around 8 cents, maybe as high as, 20, 21, maybe even some wicks up to 25 cents, because XYO really has some volatile and notable wicks whenever it starts to really move. And it's showcased that plenty of times throughout its history. As I've said many times, I think, assuming that the bull market's not over, alt season actually begins, at least for the viable altcoins. This alt season might be a little bit different this time around, where we won't see the vast majority of altcoins pump, or maybe this time around we'll just really see the viable altcoins pump, the ones that actually have genuine use case and are actually contributing as an actual cryptographic blockchain solution and providing some actual real world solution, such that XYO is doing. XYO layer 1 launches will be generally sometime this year, probably within the next month or two or so. I know they've been doing some testnet things recently, but that's also going to be really good for that to launch as well. XYO will become the gas token of that layer 1, which will give it more of a genuine use case outside of just really just an investment vehicle. But 50 cents to $2.30. The prior, as you can see here, back at the end of 2021, that was somewhere around the 786 up to the top of the channel. So I mean, again, that's really depending upon when it happens. At this point, I think we'll probably see a lot of these altcoins top out closer to Q4. So that would probably anywhere from around basically 90 cents, depending upon how it, well, if it goes all the way back up to the top of the channel again, it'll be able to be to $2.30. So somewhere around 90 cents to $2.30. Again, like I said, leaning somewhere more closer to maybe mid to late Q3 at earliest, but I'm probably leaning more towards early Q4, just Q4 in general, but generally late Q3, early Q4. But that was all that I wanted to go over in this video. So as always, none of this is meant to be financial advice, but all that being said and everything gone over, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Ooh, I'm regretting now.